Guess you're using your controller. What's going on, man? Oh, nothing much. Yo, can you hear me?
There we go. Okay. I had my headset plugged into my laptop.
What were you
Yeah, I
doing
hear you.
there?
I was just listening to some new stuff while I was playing Legends or whatever.
New stuff as in.
As in news, as in information, as in fucking coronavirus.
Bro, what's up?
Fucking
What's going on, homie?
you know,
Uh,
Afghanistan shit. So
you know you could do that on your PS4, right? Where you play a game.
nope.
Of course, you don't know.
I'd rather just use the laptop because it's right next to me and yeah. So.
What did you find out about the coronavirus?
I mean, I haven't made a breakthrough discovery, if that's what you're asking. I'm just telling you what related subjects I was listening to or whatever.
Well, you had to have found out something, right?
Well, sometimes it's shit I already know. Sometimes it's things that are not really, like groundbreaking. So,
Well, I would like to know what you heard. Add to
just
my
that
collection.
there's no,
Man, I'm surprised I'm not
there's,
asleep.
like they keep talking about the Delta variant, but they don't have any tests that can specify, like, do you just have the coronavirus or do you have
The
a
Delta
certain
variant.
strain? Do you have like the fucking England version, the South African version, the Chinese version, the fucking North American version, the Delta variant, the whatever? Like there's no distinguishing uh process. It's just, oh, you have it. So so if there's a surge in the Delta variant, but
We don't
you know
know what it
this
is
this guy
exactly.
this guy was just recounting, this gentleman he knew and how he would call, like, a local pharmacy or hospitals or whatever. They're like, no,
Tell
no, we don't,
him
we
they
don't have
don't
it.
know what the hell is going on.
I was like, well, how do you
It's all
know if it's,
theory.
how do you know something is this? How do we know on mass that what's going on is a surge of this Delta variant when we don't actually have a test to properly measure
The
it?
Delta variant is probably made up.
See, all right. So Lionel is one is some cool people that I'll be talking to, right? And he um, is aware of this stuff too. He's actually in the chat right now. So I already took a nap just to let you know, Lionel. I should be good to go. I just came from the store and got me a small cup of coffee. I know you don't do coffee anymore, but I restrict the coffee to kind of like a minimum. But he says that they don't know what's going on, and he thinks that the Delta variant is actually made up, and it's kind of hard to like say it to discredit that theory. You know what I mean? They really have no way of testing it, and since it's all
Well,
coronaviruses, it's like the colds and flus, and they're all related.
well, there was a report about, like, there being a surge around, like, the July 4th holiday and all that shit, and uh, it was it, it wasn't really like a good data pool because the event that they were talking about people going to these places, partying, getting fairly intimate with one another. So it's like, if you have people that are vaccinated but they're getting the coronavirus, like, is it like it's kind of
If it's real, it's
logically it makes
probably
sense
being
that if
caused
you're
by the people
vaccinated,
with
but like
vaccines
you're
because that's when we started
coming in
hearing about it.
very intimate contact with another person, right? Like it would still spread to you even if you're vaccinated. And of course, the question is that okay, vaccinated people can get it, but like does it actually do anything? Like, is it just you get it, but it doesn't actually affect you? And then if you have the vaccine and you have the virus, but it doesn't actually cause any harmful effects, can you still spread that infection to other people where it can harm them? You know, yada yada yada. So,
See, there's a couple of theories going on, including like if it is real, the Delta variant is caused by the vaccines themselves. You know what I'm saying? Allowing it to
yeah.
mutate. But also, a couple of things happen. Why is it mouse in my fucking house? That little birthday badge that Obama had, a lot of people got infected. They just kind of
And
like announced that shit.
how these exceptionally rich and people high on the social ladder get infected? They should be the cleanest amongst them all, right?
Supposedly they were vaccinated.
Supposedly.
Not only that, but Jesse Jackson, he's fully vaccinated, and he ended up getting the virus. They just announced it, but the news didn't even like say that he was fully vaccinated. It just basically stated that he got the virus. You know, it's like kind of like tell the truth and shame the fucking devil. Why don't you tell him that he's fully vaccinated? And he's like, well, you know, it would have been a lot worse if I didn't get the vaccine. Like, how do you know this? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, he's the canary in the Negro mine, so at least that's what he wants to be. Full of shit, probably.
So of course they show him pictures, and the imagery is always, the imagery is what matters. You know what I mean? They show people in hazmat suits, they hammer home a point.
Brother using people as research subjects.
But to me, I don't understand. Like, okay, so if they're using them as research subjects, you know what I'm saying? I feel like they know more about this virus than what they're stating.
They might be preparing for a worse virus.
Could be preparing for a worse virus. What do you think, Terry?
I think I need to listen to some more Brett Weinstein. That's what I'm thinking.
Did you heading out the chat?
No, I'm just saying that's a guy that actually has some fairly intelligent people on his, it's called the Dark Horse podcast. So. There's one that you sent me, but it's on Spotify, so I have to figure out how to do that.
Hoorah, something worth watching.
But like the way like it spreads through the body and how it seems to have like the virus seems to concentrate in like weird places, you know, like I told you this, like with women, like it tends to concentrate in their ovaries, and it's like what the fuck, like that's some weird shit right there, you know.
Oh, it's because of the type of tissue, which what happens. It circulates throughout the body, but like the tissue, because it's a spike protein, it's going to settle there. You know, so there's a lot of layers to this. Oh shit, please don't go. Okay.
That vaccine might be worse.
You know, it's very hard to see what's really going on with what they're fucking doing. Is fucking. Oh, I'm not dead. Shit. That shit almost killed me. So either they're preparing for something worse, you know what I'm saying, or this is some sort of like whatever that they have prepared worse. It's going to this virus, and it's funny because I said this shit a couple months ago. They want you to take the fucking vaccine, so whatever they're going to release later on would activate with this vaccine. What would activate with this vaccine is unclear. Maybe there's some sterilization. I don't fucking know. But you know, this is one of those cases where the truth is stranger than fiction. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to really prove it, but I've always had a theory that I wonder if these vaccines actually have an effect on fertility rates.
Well, you already know pregnant women can't take this shit either. You know what I mean?
You know about the Colossus project, making the 8-cut Colossus in the Unity engine? It will be easy to hand out vaccines, so they trying to eliminate the laws that protect us.
Well, there's one thing to say due to vaccine, you know what I'm saying? What's more scary is the amount of people that are for forced mandates. You know what I mean? They really got them to a point where they're afraid. I didn't hear about that Shadow of the Colossus project. It's amazing how many people are actually like really for being like fucking controlled. It's amazing. And then they just regurgitate the shit that we've already heard. You do realize that the vaccine was never supposed to be 100%. That the vaccine was meant.
Crazy. It's crazy how we have Google and people are more sheep than ever.
It's all convenience. People are like controlled by, like when you go into a game forum, they only read the fucking title. So all they need to do is read the title. They don't really care about anything else. You know, it was never going to be 100%. There's nothing 100%. It's meant for you to feel good, so you won't die. The breakthrough cases are not that plentiful.
Doctors, that's why. But black people don't really listen to doctors like that.
It's really crazy. You know what I mean? And how they got everybody to be against each other. You know what it boils down to is like, people don't understand that the same freedoms that they want this vaccine for, like they want to hurry up and get it over with, just take the fucking vaccine so I can go back to my life, that once they do this, it relinquishes their freedom. Like they don't fucking get it. Oh shit. It's more to it than just the vaccines and what it could do.
One of the lowest vaccine rates.
Oh, because they were poisoning black people without them knowing it and shit like that, you know. But
waivers too loudly crying face.
What waivers?
Vanilla waivers.
Stupid ass. Country is divided by people that want to fucking protect their freedoms. And the government got them thinking like, in order for you to get your freedoms back, you have to take this vaccine of unknown origin.
When you take the vaccine, you sign a waiver not to sue anyone.
I thought they already had, Terry, maybe you know about this shit. Didn't they already have vaccines? I mean, waivers. Wasn't like, you know, the FDA and stuff like that protected against people suing them anyway?
Under the Ronald Reagan administration, they passed legislation to where companies that administrate vaccines are not liable for anything that happens to you, like side effects, death, you know, things like that.
So what the fuck is
they were getting hammered, and they, going through lawsuits and stuff. And so, thanks to the Reagan administration, they have full immunity. So if they administrate a vaccine to you, like it doesn't apply to everything, but I know it's specifically to vaccines. So like if something happens to you, um, they are not held liable. So because of that, the probability of profit is exceptionally high because you don't have to worry about like, oh,
So
some guy in
Reagan
Kansas
screwed
took
us.
it and his eyeballs fell out of his socket. You know, because not only it's just the money there, but also the PR, right? There's a lot of damages your company's gonna go through. So now that that now that that can't happen, right, because of what happened under the Reagan administration, they can throw all kinds of shit at you. Now I don't know how it is in other countries, but here in America, that's how it is. So.
So what's the fucking point of fighting for not taking the vaccine if they're going to be protected anyway? Like the difference between the CDC and the FDA.
I mean, the big thing is just the conservation of personal freedom. So, my body, my choice, that whole thing. So, and besides, it's, typically if something is mandated, it easily becomes a racket, a profitable racket. So it's like with Obamacare, which was Clinton care before Obama existed. But if you make health insurance mandated and you find people who don't, I mean, you're essentially creating the money
So we
trough,
probably
and
have
then
a
you
lot
don't
of
really
other
have to worry
immune
about the
diseases
quality of
due
that
to all
insurance,
these
and you don't even have
vaccines
to
we
worry about
take.
competition within the insurance companies because everyone has to have it. So insurance companies, you just have a selective few. It's like cable internet, like you just have three or four very big companies, and they kind of have a mutual agreement between each other in terms of what they're going to charge their customers and how they're going to compete with each other. That way, like they all have a large share of the market, but not enough to where they actually threaten each other. Um, unless there's like a merger or something.
So surely you know all about people that have issues with vaccines and what do you call it, disease for children that's associated with vaccines, autism.
Um, yeah. There's been a lot of discussion about the effects of vaccines and the connection to autism.
Also, Josh, the COV isn't FDA approved.
No, I know I know it's not FDA approved though, but that's the thing. People think that it not being FDA approved, like let's say if the FDA approves it, you still can't sue them for malpractice. So a lot of people don't understand.
The Food and Drug Administration is a racket. People that work for big pharma, they
They're all
go into
together.
the FDA, and then the people that work in the FDA go into big pharma. It's a revolving door. So it's like a simple example, like Mark Esper, right? He was the Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense under Donald Trump, right? Well, before Donald Trump, Mark Esper was on the board of Raytheon. Well, who is Raytheon? That's the company that makes computer chips for rockets,
But
drones,
the COV
munitions,
isn't a vaccine,
military
they
grade
just call it
helicopters,
that.
all kinds of shit. So you see that somebody who is with a company that makes money with that kind of business then goes into politics and becomes a Secretary of State or Secretary of Defense, which has direct influence over what countries we occupy, our presence, our bases around the world, which further justifies purchase of munitions from companies like, you see what I'm saying? It's a circle that goes on forever. So it's endless. So the FDA and big pharma, it's the same thing. The FDA does things to incentivize big pharma to spend money to make more money, and then big pharma does things in turn, for the FDA, and it just, it's a revolving door. So.
And they just give it illusion pieces. Now, why would they be giving a population shit that will give autism and whatnot, in your opinion?
Uh, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's. I don't think maybe I don't think there's an attempt to give people. Hold on, spare me. I, I wouldn't go as far to say that there's a deliberate attempt to give people autism. I just think that
And the research is skewed to their
there are
advantage.
certain side effects that just happen. Like it doesn't affect everybody, but it's the demographic it affects is large
Bruh, the
enough that it
money.
needs to be talked about, and the companies need to be held accountable. But if you have anything that can wear down, dumb down, um, exhaust, or kind of weaken the civilian population to where they are more malleable, you know, in terms of propaganda, information, direction, submissiveness to power, whatever. Um, and obviously, you would want to, test out or employ uh, those kind of options. You know, whether that's economic or fucking, giving people a vaccine that affects them in some way. So,
And then, of course, it still boils down to money.
Make them more sheep-like.
oh well, yeah, obviously money
You
has
know,
a major role to play in
if
it.
people are sick, then you can continue to give them stuff that doesn't really help.
Right. Like I I would not go as far to say is that the
If you make the
coronavirus
men weak,
is the
society is
vaccine.
easier to control. That's why
First,
the
this
push
lady
for
gets on
women.
a horse and fucking flies beyond me, and by the time I get on my horse to catch up with her, she's like I can't catch up with her. So that makes sense. So anyways, like it wouldn't make sense to like administer something to people that would actually like kill them or like cause severe health issues. I think part of it is like it's psychological warfare. Um, but does it have some kind of effect on people's health? I'm very confident of that, but what I wouldn't know. Like I said, one of my theories is fertility rates. You know, I know that real world examples. When you look at here in America as well as Canada, Native American women were basically sterilized to help get rid of you know, the issue of, the Native American population. Or not eliminate them, but dwindle their numbers to where, their grievances and outcries would, be easier to handle, because you have a smaller group of people. So, I mean, and look at today's world, right? Like, you have enough black people out there to where you kind of have to pay attention to what they're complaining about, but um, like Native Americans, I mean, they don't exist anymore. So, and of course, I'm being facetious when I say that, right? But like, when's the last time you ever heard of, you know, racism, injustices, systematic racism, whatever, oppression of the indigenous people? But you don't hear about it anymore because there's so few of them, and they've lost so much of their history and cultural identity that they can't mount uh, an offensive large enough for people to even take notice. It's fucked up to say that this kind of true. So, if you wanted to, not kill, but wear down a demographic of people enough to where they're no longer an issue, fertility rates would be a way to go about that. So. and of course, as I'm a firm believer of this, each ethnicity, each racial group, their body chemistry is a little different. So like some things will affect whites, blacks, Latinos, Oriental people differently. You know, um, like the example of like milk, right? Like people in Africa, you know, like Bill Gates Foundation and shit. They give them milk or powdered milk or whatever, and the native people there, they call it the white man's poison because what happens is they take that shit. Their body's not used to eating dairy like that, like white people are in Europe, colder climates, and it gives them diarrhea. And so, of course, they get diarrhea, they dehydrate, and they die. And so, that's in certain places in Africa where they do that shit. They call it the white man's poison because their physiology, or not, but their digestive system res- has a very bad reaction to like dairy related food. You know, Whereas white people, through living in colder climates and that being part of their diet for a long time, doesn't have that harmful effect. So it's very possible that you can make a virus or a vaccine that may affect white people in one way and blacks in another, Latinos in another way, so on and so forth.
We do realize that cats actually are lactose intolerant as well.
I vaguely remember hearing that, but I've never had a cat as a pet. So.
Maybe that's the push for. It's so crazy, man. I mean, the rabbit hole you go. You know what I mean? It's very difficult to try to figure this shit out. I mean, someone told me it's best not to try to figure it out, man. But I mean, this is all driven by money. That's fucking pretty fucking scary. But I guess money is another word for control. You know what I mean? And controlling the economy is another thing too.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at how the economy has changed due to the coronavirus. Right?
People say, why would they do this to tear the economy apart? It's not about tearing it apart. You remember I told you, I said this was a paradigm shift. Right. You remember I told you this was going to be a paradigm shift. When this first happened. So ultimately, you think that this is some sort of control and population control?
I think population control is part of it. I think one thing we can definitely say is the paradigm shift as it pertains to the economy, right? Like destroying the economy helps no one, right? So you don't want to destroy the economy, but if you can adversely affect the concentration and where the flow of money is going, that in turn, can consolidate power in the right places. So if you look at, you know, companies like Amazon, you know, they didn't suffer from the pandemic. They boomed.
Whatsoever.
They boomed, right? Which is kind of strange. But of course, we've seen multiple small businesses suffer and be destroyed. Um, and those that remain are hemorrhaging. Let me say that word. Um, but yeah, like Walmart, you know, like some of these very big companies have their wealth grew exponentially during the coronavirus lockdown. So we can definitively say that we've seen a transfer and a higher concentration of, you know, money and the flow thereof to certain big companies and corporations. So, so I mean, it, you could reasonably say that maybe that's part of the reason, you know, maybe not the only reason, but part of it. Um, I mean, think about it. Like you had, there was a black guy that worked in a major hub up in New York State, and you know he brought up the issue of like personal protective equipment and social distancing and you know staying safe and stuff like that. And Amazon blew him off, and he got some headway for a little bit, but eventually Amazon was able to kind of you know uh, have him obscured, basically. Maybe not shut down, but obscured to where his message finally kind of died out. But you know, I mean, any other company, you know, like a you know family-owned restaurant or something, that they probably would have been destroyed, you know, or fined. I mean, look at New York, like, or look at like the gyms, you know. I mean, I'm pretty sure you know about that. Huh? You know, like you had these places. It's like, dude, like if we shut down, like my business is going to collapse. Like I have to stay open, you know.
It's funny
And
how
you know
they
they
don't
would
want you to get
fine them
healthy
and all that
either,
shit.
like at all.
Well,
You
a healthy
know,
population is a powerful population, you know. So can be a resistant one too.
but why weaken the population that protects the country though?
Um, well, I mean, how that works, I don't really know. I mean, if you look at like when you look at like China, like you look at regular people versus, excuse me, how many people are actually like serving the government and are faithful to the government? It's a very small number, but that's kind of if you know you can reliably have a very small group of people that you depend on to enforce law and order, and then the other portion you can kind of keep oppressed, you know. So the demographic of people that are being affected are not the people that are defending the country. I can guarantee you that. So, oh, I wasted that 61.
So what is that saying exactly?
What that's saying is exactly is that the portion of the population that is becoming healthy or sick or whatever, that's not going to be the group of people that are protecting or enforcing law and order. So, because then you would be shooting yourself in the foot. So,
So they want the weak people to actually protect the country.
no, no, it's not. It's not about protecting the country is irrelevant. It's about enforcing law and order uh, and controlling the potential resistant or rebellious part of the population. You're you're talking from the standpoint of an outside invasive force, which that's really not going to happen. So, not saying that it can't happen, but like the logistics of maintaining supply lines and having a land invasion here, uh, that would just be impractical. So it's much smarter to cripple America economically or something. So now, if we had like extreme civil unrest or civil war or something, yeah, then you could take that opportunity to try and invade the country. But you'd have to have a, that's a whole other conversation. So, but
But
I'm talking about
you said that
specifically.
to weaken the country is their MO.
Well, if I said to weaken the country, I misspoke. I'm specifically talking about weakening the civilian population. So, because you don't, if you have a weak, okay, submissive and disempowered civilian population, it takes much fewer loyalists to maintain law and order in the country.
It's
So
probably
you,
why they don't want you to own your own business or anything the fuck else.
so like if you're unhealthy, if you're unarmed, if you're stupid, if you're uneducated, if all the information you have available is government propaganda, and you live off cell phones and food stamps and fucking whatever, like it only takes, it will only take one guy who's healthy, who's well armed, well fed, well educated, serving the government to keep 100 people at bay, you know. So and the less people you need to enforce law and order, the easier it is to keep those people loyal to you. So also too, you have to understand that there's a
It's also blind,
psychological
deaf, and
effect.
dumb.
Yes, there's a psychological effect. Like, for example, when you look at the Soviet Russia, right? You look at the USSR and the Soviet Union. You had a lot of men that believed in the vision of the Kremlin, that believed in what the Soviet Union was doing, and thought that people that were being sent to the gulags to die a brutal death and to be slave labor, that they were criminals and that they were deserving of their punishment. And then when the Soviet Union collapsed, and Stalin, well, maybe not necessarily when the Soviet Union collapsed, but specifically after Joseph Stalin died, they realized that it was all like it was an illusion, it was a farce, it was all propaganda, and that they had basically condemned countless men and women to their deaths in these gulags because they thought that what the Kremlin was doing was for good cause and was all justified. When they realized that no, he was actually an evil, sadistic person, that a lot of them killed themselves because they couldn't live with it. You know, that's what you have to understand is that you're going to have people that are psychologically going to fall into the belief that what President so and so is doing, what the administration is doing, what the FDA is doing, what the CDC is doing, whoever is doing is righteous and just, and it's for the best and well-being of the country. And so they will kind of fight to the bitter end, believing in that vision when if they're kind of swooped into that propaganda. So unless that illusion is broken, they will maintain that. That's why it's like, how do you see people that are oppressing their own kinsmen and their own countrymen, right? Because they've been psychologically they've been sold this system, this belief, and they're buying into it, you know. So, and I'm saying the exact same thing can happen here in America. You can have a small portion of people that are loyalists, that their faith is unwavering in the government, and will kill, persecute, and oppress their own people because they think it's for the better well-being of the country as a whole. You know, so especially if they're completely, sold into that ideology, that propaganda. So,
Sound like that fucking vaccination group.
well, that's what I'm saying. So if you
I
have
know.
if you have people that are sick, deaf, dumb, blind, unhealthy, uninformed, uneducated, unarmed, right? You only need a very small portion of loyalists to keep the oppressed oppressed. You know, so
They deserve to lose their job because, I'm like, what the fuck? Man, these people are fucking insane. That's why we're never going to get a Grand Theft Auto, yo. Another one of that caliber, man.
You know what? I'm gonna. Where's the archer stuff here? Yeah, I mean, it's just it blows people's minds because they can't comprehend those things happening here in this country. And all you got to do is just, look at world history, look at other countries that have risen, that have collapsed, or civilizations in general, and then you can kind of see, wow, the same, I've mentioned before, this KGB defector, Yuri Bezmenov, dude, the shit that's happening in our country now, he was talking about this back in the 80s, you know, so.
This repeats itself, and then we're fucking copying it. I mean, we're deleting history.
I mean, that the Bible literally says there's nothing new under the sun. So, I'm trying to remember, it was King Solomon who wrote it. He's like, there's nothing new under the sun. That which has been in the past, and those who say, look and see, here's a new thing, for it is not true. Something along those lines, you know. I really don't have any complaints. I do kind of wonder if they could have tweaked the water a little bit though.
You mean like the waves and shit like that?
Yeah, like I don't know, like maybe give it a little more transparency or I don't know, something.
I think that would have probably ended up fucking up the frame rate.
It like I don't know how to explain it, but it's like the water just looks like someone just backwashed it in their mouth or something. Like I don't know how to explain it.
The most
Yeah.
grotesque fucking thing you could have ever said.
Hey, you want some water? Here you go. So yeah, it ain't always that gross. Like what was it John Wick 2 or 3 where Halle Berry like he's like, oh, here's a bottle of water in the desert, and she like backwashes the whole thing or something. Yeah.
Never seen that movie.
It's kind of a funny scene, but
None of the John Wick movies. I wanted to though.
I mean, it's an impressive film in terms of like the camera work and like the amount of like dedication that Keanu Reeves put in just with like you know uh, specifically like the firearms handling is like really impressive. So like it honestly reminded me of Metal Gear Solid.
Did it
So
really?
yeah, well, because like Metal Gear Solid was like one of the first games to actually get like understanding and the handling of firearms like down in a very professional and like realistic and believable manner, you know? So but yeah, that's what it kind of reminded me of, honestly. So question, have you played Cyberpunk recently?
Earlier today, yeah, just for like a very brief moment. What about it?
I'm just curious if there's any noticeable improvements.
No. The biggest problem with Cyberpunk is AI interaction, level of detail loading.
Right.
Like it's not good, man.
To be like, you would them just drop Cyberpunk and just spend the next like 6 months to a year just doing a 4K remaster for The Witcher 3 and just put that out. So
Sure you want that? You're not gonna complain about it? I just, it feels like this game could have I'm just burnt out.
uh well,